Hello students, welcome to the new session. Today we'll be discussing about active and passive voices. So before we move on to the other segments of active and passive voices, we have to know more about active and passive voice, or what do you mean by active and passive voice. Here an active voice tells us something that a person or a thing does. For example, the teacher read its content aloud. The teacher is reading the content. So this is an example for active voice. And now when we speak about passive voice, what is that? It tells us something that is done to a person or a thing. That something which is done to a person or a thing is known as a passive voice. For example, its contents were read aloud by the teacher. Its contents were read aloud by the teacher. So here what happened? The action tells something that is done to a person or a thing. So here the action is done to the person. The teacher is reading, or its contents were read aloud by teacher. So here the subject in active voice becomes the object in passive voice, and the object in passive voice becomes the subject in active voice. So this is what happens in the active and passive voices. So before we move on to it, we have to know more about the tense and its changes which happens with regard to active and passive voice. So here we speak about, we'll take one example. For example, we'll see all the tenses and the conversion which happens it. So for example, the first one, he makes pot. He makes pot. He makes pot. He makes pot will be converted as pots are made by him. Pots are made by him. Made by him. So pots are made by him. So this is the conversion which happens. So the subject in the passive voice, active voice becomes the object in the passive voice, and the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. So this is what happens in a simple present tense. So what will be happening in a present continuous? So that is, he is making pots. He is making pot. He is making pots will be changed into pots are being made. Pots are being made. Pots are being made. Pots are being made by him. Pots are being made by him. And what will happen with the perfect tense? That is, he has made pots, and it will be pots have been made by him. Pots have been made by him. So the pots have been made by him. So this will be the types of conversion which happens in the tense. And also for the perfect continuous tense, there is no passive form for this one. So this is the same with regard to past as well as future also. So now we have discussed about present form, and the same thing will be happened with regard to the past and future also. For example, he made pots will be changed into pots were made by him. He was making pots will be changed to pots were being made by him. So there is only the difference between is, am, or was, were. The changes which happens with regard to it will be coming in the changes. For example, he was making pots will be changed to pots were being made by him. And in the past perfect tense, it becomes he had made pots changed into pots had been made by him. And there is no passive form for perfect continuous. Past perfect continuous, there is no passive form for that. And same with the future, that is, he will make pots will be changed into pots will be made by him, and he will be making pots. So for perfect continuous as well as future continuous, there is no passive form. So he will be making pots, will be considered as he will be making pots as such. And then he will have made pots, will be changing the pots will have been made by him. Pots will have been made by him. Pots will have been made by him. Pots have been he will have made pots, will be changed into pots will have been made by him. So these are the main changes which happens in when we convert from one sentence to another, the changes which happens in the tenses. So I hope that is clear. And now we have something more with regard to our passive voice. So here, passive voice with the modal auxiliaries. For example, may will become maybe, or can, could. So all those kinds of changes will be happening. For example, modal auxiliary plus be form will be coming in a passive form. There is an example which is given here. The chief minister may inaugurate the handicrafts fair. So that is the example that is here, and it will be converted as the handicrafts fair may be inaugurated by the chief minister. So the may is followed by be in the sentence. In the same way, some might drop the vase and break it. Some might drop the vase and break it. The vase might be dropped and broken by someone, or broken. So here might plus be form of the word is used here. Okay. In the same way, using the passive in other situations, like when the agent is not important or is understood. For example, the patient was treated with care. So here it is said patient. We do not know who it is. Here the agent is not so sure about. And when the agent is uncertain or unknown. For example, the lock had been broken, which means someone had already broken it. So the lock will not broke by itself. So someone had broken it, and the agent is unknown or uncertain. So, and the next one, when the agent is to be kept confidential. For example, the orders for the mission have been given. So someone might have given the orders. So the order won't take by itself. So there might be someone or a person who will be taking the order. So what happens? So here it is, there will be a confidential man who will be there to take the order. And the last one, when the speaker wishes to remain neutral, objective or decent. For example, you will be informed well in advance, and the money owed to you will be paid to you in cash. Here the speaker wishes to remain neutral, in the sense he is telling what it is, but if he asks whether he is saying or not, it is not. So that is with regard to the last one. And there are some examples, there are some assignments, and all those things are there in the textbook, and you can do your assignments or complete your assignments, and I will be giving the answers in the next classes and so on. Okay, thank you.